Today we're going to tell you the incredible true story of a geographer named Percy Fawcett, who, in 1925, ventured deep into the Amazon jungle with his son Jack, in search of a hidden city. He believed there existed an ancient civilization in those forests that the world had never heard of. But whoever dared to go there never returned, because these were the wild jungles of the Amazon, home to cannibalistic tribes who hadn't encountered outsiders for centuries. However, this wasn't Percy's first time stepping into those jungles. 17 years earlier, he had already explored that region, but due to the outbreak of the World War, he couldn't return. Percy and his son had no idea that this expedition could be their last, because after that, no one ever discovered what happened to them. What really took place in the heart of the Amazon. To uncover the truth of Percy and his son's mysterious disappearance, stay with us as we explain the movie The Lost City of Z. Our main story starts in 1905. Here we first meet Percy, a British officer taking part in a hunting competition with his fellow soldiers. After a long chase, he finally takes down a deer and wins the contest. Later, a grand party is held for all the officers, and the winner was to be introduced to a high-ranking commander. But we see some people refusing to let Percy meet him because Percy had no medals to his name. Due to this, he was looked down upon as a low-ranking officer. Percy felt deeply disappointed. Despite his talent and hard work, opportunities always seemed to slip through his fingers. A year later, Percy receives an invitation from the Royal Geographical Society. When he goes to London to meet them, he learns that they want him to draw a map. There was a border dispute between Brazil and Bolivia, and both sides wanted the British to create an impartial map of the territory. The society promises Percy that if he succeeds, both his name and his family's honor would rise, and he would be promoted. Percy accepts the offer and returns home to share the news with his wife, Nina, who wholeheartedly supports him, knowing it could change their lives. Joining him on this expedition is another man, Henry Coston, skilled at his work but somewhat reckless. After several months of travel, they reach their destination and begin mapping the region. It would take years to chart the entire area, and they had only just begun. In that dense forest lived a businessman named Baron, who ran a rubber trade there. One night, during a celebration, an officer informs Percy that a telegram has arrived, ordering them to halt their mission because the fighting between Brazil and Bolivia had intensified, putting their lives in danger. But Percy refuses to back down after coming so far. He insists that they'll return only after completing their task. Later, they visit Baron for help because they need local guides who know the terrain. Baron gives them a tribal man whom he had kept captive for years. Together, they head deeper into the jungle, traveling by river. Along the way, they spot a German ship with a man sitting inside. When they call out, there's no reply. The man had been killed by the tribes. The moment they enter tribal territory, arrows rain down on them. In the chaos, one of Percy's men is injured and falls into the water. Percy dives in to rescue him, but both get caught in a net. The river is full of deadly piranhas that tear into them. Percy barely escapes, but the other man is not so lucky. Afterward, they reach the riverbank. The tribal man tells Percy about an ancient city made of gold hidden in the jungle. He warns him that as an outsider, his chances of survival are slim, though he himself would be safe. That night, Percy ponders over the story of the Golden City but assumes it's just a myth. The next morning, they resume their journey through the dense forest. After hours of trekking, they reach deep into the jungle. Coston is thrilled. They've gone farther than anyone before. But when they look around, the tribal guide has fled. Hungry and exhausted, they hunt a wild boar for food. As they explore deeper, Percy discovers clay pots, proof that people once lived there long ago. Eventually, they leave the jungle by boat. Years later, Percy returns to England, where people welcome him as a hero for his honorable work. He is awarded a medal and invited to a gathering of prominent figures eager to hear about his findings. Percy explains that he discovered ancient artifacts and is convinced that if one ventures even deeper, they might find a city filled with gold, just as the tribal man had described. The audience is fascinated and urges Percy to continue his search. A few months after returning home, Percy prepares for another expedition. Nina insists on joining him, saying she can't bear to be left behind again. But Percy refuses, leading to a heated argument. Despite her pleas, he leaves without her. This time, a man named James Murray joins them, hoping for fame by being part of the discovery. But as time goes on, it becomes clear that James lacks the stamina for such a harsh journey. While crossing the river, the tribes attack again. This time, Percy doesn't run. Instead, he steps forward, trying to communicate peacefully. The tribes take him away, and Costin fears he's been killed, but Percy is alive. They turn out to be cannibalistic tribes. Percy tries to ask about the Golden City, but they know nothing of it. Still, he learns through their gestures that they practice farming, a surprising sign of civilization. As they press on, James starts losing faith in the mission. He demands they turn back. Percy, obsessed with his dream, refuses. During a river crossing, James destabilizes the boat, spilling their food supplies into the water. Later, he injures his leg, and infection spreads rapidly. Unable to continue, he is sent back with food and a horse. But once he leaves, they discover he had sabotaged their rations by mixing oil into the food. Costin urges Percy to return, and reluctantly, Percy agrees. When they return to England, James accuses them of abandoning him and files a case. Costin denies it, but Percy still offers to apologize. However, when he learns that James wants him to do it in front of Nina, Percy refuses. He won't apologize for something he didn't do. As a result, he resigns from his post. His troubles don't end there. Back home, Percy learns that all unemployed men are being drafted for war. Since he just resigned, he must go too. His son Jack, now grown, is angry at him for never being around. They argue bitterly, and Percy ends up slapping him. 2 years later, Percy is at war alongside Costin. He constantly thinks about the lost city he once sought. Years pass. During one attack, the enemy releases chlorine gas. Many soldiers die, and Percy temporarily loses his sight. He's retired from service but later recovers and is promoted to lieutenant colonel for his bravery. Though disappointed by his fate, Percy finds comfort in Jack's encouragement. Months later, his eyesight improves. One day, some men visit to praise him, saying his discoveries have inspired others. They urge him to return to Amazonia to finish what he started, before someone else does and takes the glory. Percy soon learns that the meeting was arranged by Jack himself, who now wants to accompany him. Delighted that his son finally understands him, Percy agrees. Together, they announce a new expedition to find the lost city, and many supporters come forward to fund it. Percy asks Costin to join them, but Costin, now older and with a family, declines. Percy misunderstands, thinking Costin no longer believes in the city, but Costin has his reasons. Percy tells his superior that if he finds the city, he'll send him his watch as proof. Then Percy and Jack set off once again. The entire nation, 40 million strong, pins its hopes on their success. Within a year, most of their team turns back. Percy and Jack continue, visiting the same tribe Percy met a decade ago. They send letters describing their journey, and the tribal chief treats them with kindness. Percy and Jack take photos together, hopeful that the chief's guidance will lead them to the lost city soon. Following the chief's directions, they set off again. One day, they encounter another tribe. Thinking they'd be friendly too, Percy approaches, but this group is hostile. They attack, and Percy and Jack barely escape, running into an open field where rival tribes clash. Both are captured, tied up, and brought before the enemy tribe. Percy can't speak their language. Bowing his head, he silently hopes for mercy. The tribe, however, believes the two men's souls are not one of them. Percy comforts Jack, saying nothing will happen, but Jack knows death is near. They are forced to drink a potion that makes them unconscious. In the end, we see them being carried toward a river, and from that moment, no one ever knew what happened to them. Years later, Nina Fawcett is still waiting for her husband and son. A Brazilian man brings her Percy's watch, the same one he promised to send when he found the lost city. But the man tells her they've already sent over 100 people to search and found nothing. He asks her to accept that they are gone. Nina never gives up. She searches for years through the Amazon but never finds them. In 1954, she too passes away, still searching. This is the true story of Percy Fawcett and his son, Jack, who vanished mysteriously in 1925.